Hi, welcome to the smoke trail. I'm in beautiful Denver, a little bit of fall colors behind me. And something that has happened in the last couple weeks, I thought might be relevant to many of you. And so I thought I would talk a little bit about health and consciousness. So we have a close family member slash friend who is suffered a stroke and brain bleed and um, is now in recovery. I think it's early to say, but it's the early steps are very uh, early progress have been encouraging. Moving out of the ICU today and kind of into the next level of care, starting to speak and to make movements and to um, interact, but there's still a lot of work ahead. And Anitra's been primary caregiver and in supporting the health journey, and it just brings to light, you know, what really matters. I think I don't know anyone who wouldn't agree with the idea that when your health goes, nothing else matters much, right? Like if like whatever you're working on, whatever you're excited about, whatever your journey is, when your health starts to really go, or you have a huge, tragic event, um, everything goes out the window, and you're basically trying to survive. And I think we all have experiences like this, if not directly, then someone we know, someone in our family or one of our friends, and it really uh, changes the priorities very quickly. And I think it's really important for everyone to consider this before there's a tragedy. Once something happens, you're going to deal with whatever the situation is. But if we consider how important this is to everything about one's life, then I think we might take a different lens in how we approach our our caring for ourselves, caring for others, and just our approach to it. So I just thought I'd share a few things that would be I found to be helpful. If this can be useful to you, great. I'm not here to preach to anybody, but I've come to know a number of things that I think could be very useful, would have been useful to me earlier on. But our health is very, 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 very tied to our consciousness. What do I mean by that? When you're oblivious to what's going on in your life, when you're not aware of your body, you're not aware of things, or you're either purposely ignoring them or you're just completely not aware. And, we all do things that are less optimal for ourselves, whether it's partying hard, which, I'm the first to admit that, first to recognize that I had many decades of that. Um, or it's eating poorly, or it's, not doing minimal basic exercise, not taking care of your mental health and spiritual health and all the other things. These are all things that we just kind of ignore or let go. And I can, remember, and I know this really, really well, just ignoring, working through pain, working through issues, kind of like toughing things out. It probably came from like early age, when I was a wrestler in high school and college, and, just working through your injuries and just toughing things out. But, later translated into if I wasn't feeling well, if I was feeling anxious, if I was having stomach issue or, just any kind of ailment, I would typically, um, just work through it and usually ignore it. Sometimes it's in the past I would take, pain reliever of some kind and just move on. And what I've come to understand is that your body is part of our consciousness. Our bodies are part of our intelligence. You're not your intelligence and in consciousness is not just in our brains. It's in our mind. It's in our bodies. And when your body tells you something, it is telling you it. Or when your body tells you something, it tells you by how you feel. It tells you by a sensation, and those sensations mean something. And it didn't. Uh, Dawn on me until I went through, this process of, the smoke trail and awakening and becoming quite conscious that, how much of that is caused by whenever we do things to protect ourselves, and this starts at childhood, but it goes on into adulthood and then it layers on, we're clamping down on parts of our body. So if as a child you were very upset, very angry, um, a lot of us had to suppress our emotions, and you can't do that without clamping down on parts of our body. And every time we do that, we create a fracture or separation. Um, when we uh, when we're told, don't be so smart by adults or other people, um, we can actually become less smart, and we do that by clamping down on parts of our brain and losing access to it. So all of us have various degrees of trauma or difficulty. There's nobody that can live in this realm without experiencing something along those lines. But it's the reaction to that difficulty or trauma that creates these fractures. And the more we fracture ourselves away from our whole being, our whole body, our whole mind, spirit coherence, the more likely we're going to have physical ailments manifest into more permanent things. So most disease, I'm not going to say all because this is just my understanding at this point. Most things that we encounter are a direct result of what I'm talking about. So it's not so much that we're destined to get cancer or to get some kind of ailment, heart disease, whatever. It's the accumulation of these fractures that create these blockages in our energy flow and thus separation from our whole being that create these avenues for disease to manifest. So we're all physical beings, mental beings, and spiritual beings. It's just a part of what this reality is. And almost all of today's medicine is, at least in the modern, Western concept of healthcare, is treating symptoms. And a lot of it's about trying to avoid pain, trying to stop the feeling that you've got. And, in many of the treatments, it's fighting cancer, it's fighting, this or that. And this is not to say that, there isn't great advances and that many of those modern health technologies aren't useful. That is not what I'm saying. They are useful. But if that is all we're doing, if that's the main focus, we are literally whack-a-moling situations. So we may slow down some disease, we may create some relief with pain relievers. Um, we may slow something down. We may even, quote, beat it. But if we haven't cleared the blockages, if we haven't cleared the energetic things that are the separation, then they're going to remanifest either in the same form or in some other form. And, I have direct experience with this. I had a whole host of ailments at one point. I considered myself healthy, but I was working through all kinds of things from, what looked like pre-diabetes to, and high blood pressure, to lots of stomach ailments, to, um, uh, I mean, gout. I mean, if anyone's had gout, you know how bad that is. I would get a shot of cortisone in my big toe joint, the big needle, and that was preferable to the pain of the gout. That's how bad it was. And then they had me on allopurinol, which was the, fight the uric acid in the blood, and all these different things. And it was just kind of, and then they tried to put me on a statin. I lasted about 3 days. My body rejected it. And all of these things, again, are whack-a-mole treating symptoms. The underlying separation, the underlying fissures that we create in our reaction to things, which is just human nature. It's not pointing fingers, it's not anything else. It's just recognizing this, are the cause of most of these things. And if we can put our conscious awareness on the sensation, on the energy, on the experience that we're trying to fight to keep out, it can't withstand it. So nothing withstands conscious awareness. And so if we put our focus on things and we are able to sit with the energy and not name it, not call it gout, not call it, an ulcer, not call it whatever the symptom would normally call it, not label it, just experience the energy of it and let that energy dissipate by putting your awareness to it. Now, you could ask questions like, is there something I'm supposed to learn from this? Is there something that I missed? Is there something that I didn't process? And asking questions like that, you don't always get the answer right there, but just by asking the question, you recontextualize what you're experiencing. And in many cases, in my case, just by asking the question, just by being open to it, just by asking, uh, things just cleared up. Now, I've cleared up everything I ever had. I mean, I probably had 25, 30, 40 different little things, check boxes of ailments that I was getting in my 50s, and they all went away. And I'm not saying that that's going to happen for everyone, but to the degree that you can put your conscious awareness on whatever it is you're experiencing, a lot of these things fall away automatically. Like, you don't even have to address the specific thing; they just fall away, as your level of consciousness rises. So the level of consciousness, there's lots of different models, but I'm a huge fan of David Hawkins, and his Power versus Force was his first book, but his map of consciousness that goes from 0 to 1,000. It's a logarithmic scale, so it goes up, exponentially, as you go up higher. And when you're at or below 200, you're in the negative energy realms. These are very low life force energy, and this is where most disease manifests. So, unfortunately, 75% or so of the population on Earth is in these lower realms. And even people that operate in higher realms dip down into those realms of shame, anger, fear, um, guilt, all these emotions that can be attached to those lower levels. And when you're in those levels, that's when people get sick. That's what sickness manifests, because your body is basically reacting to this blockage, this separation. As we clear things and as we gain in consciousness and we get above that 200, we get into the over 200s and 300s and 400s and 500s, we gain life force energy. And as we do that, a lot of ailments just fall away. They just kind of drop, and it just happens by itself. Now, at higher levels, when you get above 500, which is love, and 540, which is unconditional love, true miraculous healing occurs. It just happens. And if you can get with a group or people who are calibrating at these high levels, many times their energetic field, it's not their energetic field, it's the fact that they are accessing higher power energies because they've cleared a lot of things, will heal the people around them. Now, sometimes if they lose the presence of that group or people, you can revert right back down to the lower level, and things come right back. But that's when miracles happen. So when you think about the miracles in history, that have been documented, in the Catholic Church, the saints, and they have to have three miracles. Well, that is because these people are calibrating at this higher level of consciousness, and therefore they're like a spring of life force energy that's flowing through them and bringing divinity's power to the present moment and the present circumstances. And in so doing, healings occur. So, how does this relate to everyday life and normal people who are not spending all their time thinking about this stuff? Well, it's literally just about clearing your shadows, clearing trauma, clearing things that have happened that you bottled up, and just in the practice of feeling the energies of what's coming up and sitting there and being able to not react emotionally, not try to bottle them up, but just sit with them, they dissipate. It happens no matter what. Sometimes it takes longer than others. Some ailments, because they've accumulated for a long period of time, will take longer to dissipate or to kind of um, go away. And 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 that's just part of it. So, um, all of our focus on alleviating pain, alleviating suffering, actually kind of in a strange way has the opposite effect of healing in some ways, right? So when you dampen the actual energies and the feelings that your body is giving you by taking pain medicines, or in my case drinking, or other ways to escape emotional or physical pain, you're blotting it out, and you're not putting your awareness to it. You're ignoring it, you're compartmentalizing it, and that has the energy has nowhere to go. It just stays with you. It's stuck, and stuck energy causes disease, causes physical illness. So, as we go about our day and our normal life, it's really important to clear things as you go. Some of us have have a lot built up, a lot of trauma, a lot of things that they have to clear. And in that case, doing some intensive work, working with resources. There's lots of different ways. Therapy is one. It can be useful. Working with really qualified people who understand plant medicine like psilocybin and MDMA, which is not plant medicine but is incredibly amazing heart opener, and other modalities can help surface these things that, if you do the work along with those experiences, you can clear all that and keep it clear. Once you've cleared any deep trauma or deep things that have been stuck, it's really important that we clear every day on a regular basis. So, as simple as, it's clear as you go, right? So it's like, let things pass through you, don't bottle them up, don't react. But we're humans, so we're gonna react. There's gonna be things. But even at the end of the day, before going to bed, take your journal out and just write down here's 5 things or 10 things or whatever it is, that didn't go the way I wanted to go, that I reacted badly, or that I didn't process, that it, gave me a bunch of emotion that I didn't really kind of sit with, and just write them down and release them. Like, consciously release them. Say, I release these. They are not part of me anymore. By doing that, you clear it out of your system before you go to bed, and then your sleep processes, and you start a new day, and you're off to a fresh start. So really keeping our energy and our self clear of things on an ongoing basis is the healthful way. It's the way of perfect health. Now, there are examples that can't be explained where people get certain ailments or illnesses, that may be karmically derived. They come from some other higher reason that you're supposed to experience something. But again, asking, why am I doing this? What am I supposed to learn? Putting your conscious awareness of it. It may not make it go away, but it will at least give potentially context that allows you to not suffer with it. Everybody has pain at some point. Everybody has challenges, but the question is, do you want to suffer? And nobody wants to suffer, but we do things that cause suffering, and this relieves the suffering. So you can really sit with something. And I have one example that I'll share. I was about to give a really important talk. This is like along my journey, and I was really feeling great and cleared up a lot of things. And in preparing for this big talk to a big group that I cared a lot about, and I was going to tell a lot of, some of my trauma journey and how I got through it. I had to relive through that experience like a bunch of times because I was rehearsing, I was practicing. This was like, I was going to speak before thousands of people or CEOs, people in my world. And by practicing and reliving it, I was literally reliving it. I was reliving some of those experiences and recounting the story. And although I wasn't clearing enough clearly because right before the or the weekend of the big talk, I experienced a severe hemorrhoid that appeared out of nowhere. And again, I had lost a lot of weight. I had stopped drinking. I had done a lot of things that were all very positive. I was living, I would say, right in a very healthful way, in a conscious way. But by bringing this stuff up, I obviously had more things to heal, and it resurfaced. Or it manifested in this, horrible hemorrhoid, and it got so bad I couldn't walk. And so I'm down in Miami. I'm at this hotel. I couldn't go to rehearsal. And I didn't tell anybody because I was trying to work through it and I was trying to suffer through it. I was trying to I can do this. I'm better. I'm stronger than this. I've been through worse things. And the night before the talk, I couldn't sleep. And I won't go into graphic detail, but just say there was blood and it was a really horrible thing. This was an extremely aggressive, externally exhibiting hemorrhoid, not something I want to share with people. And about 5 in the morning, I'm literally laying there in the bathroom and I'm kind of just suffering and I'm kind of whimpering to myself. And I basically, Nitra was with me and I hadn't told her about it. And I said, look, I think I have a problem. I may have to go to the emergency room. And she's like, oh my goodness. And she's trying to help. I'm like, well, let's just see if we can, let me see if I can resolve it in the next few hours and see what happens. And I followed Dr. Hawkins' example of going into the pain, receiving it, not fighting it, stopping my resistance. I was resisting because it was so painful. And I literally just kind of like, okay, I accept this. I accept this pain. I accept this situation. What am I supposed to learn? What am I supposed to contextualize? I kept asking those questions. I asked for help. I asked for God's help. I said, what can I do to alleviate this? Because I want to give it up and give this talk. It's really important to me. And it was really, really hard. But by 10 in the morning, it was still there, but I was without pain. And I was able to get up and about. I was able to go to a rehearsal. A couple hours later, I think it was like 1 in the afternoon, I gave my talk. And some of you have seen that, one of those talks, and it's out on YouTube. It's the GLC. And totally did it, nailed it, performed perfectly. And it was just a living example of what you can do with high consciousness, with putting your awareness to something that it resolves itself. And it's not like I'm that exceptional. It's just I follow the process of surrendering it all, surrendering myself, and just not resisting. It's really important. So it does work. I know it works. You know, it took another week to fully heal, but I was out of suffering from then on. And that can apply to anything. That can apply to any injury, any ailment, any disease. And if you can stay with it, it will resolve itself. So our minds are much more powerful than our physical bodies. And if we think we're sick, we're sick. If we think we're healthy, we're mostly healthy. And even if we're really mostly healthy and we have something that comes up, just sit with it. Just go into the pain, go into the feeling. let it resolve, like let it dissipate the energy, and you'll clear that blockage. It's really powerful, and it really works. How does this relate to our trauma situation? Well, in this case, we've got a person who is in a really, really tough place, and um, I think it's. I think what happens is if we don't resolve things on a regular basis, at some point it builds up pressure, and at some point your physical body, that pressure causes a break. In this case, a stroke, but it could be anything, heart attack. It could be, an aggressive form of cancer. But at some point, your body, you kind of just, it can't handle that pressure, and it just manifests into something that, is a disease. And so that will cause many of us to reflect, get contemplative, rethink our lives. If we get through the actual illness, or as we get through it, we we surrender, we look for a higher power, we ask God for help. That will get people through, and then that, in many cases, that will cause a significant change in that person going forward, where they remember that and they integrate it into their life, and then they have a different trajectory. And I do feel like really catastrophic events and diseases and things are there to remind us, to cause us an interrupt. It's like a forced interrupt into our lives. It doesn't matter if you're the most successful entrepreneur, CEO, or success in some other realm. It doesn't matter. It will stop you in your tracks, and it causes us to rethink. But I'm here to say that we don't have to wait for that. We don't have to wait for something really bad to happen. We can address it up front. And developing a mindfulness contemplative practice, while you're healthy, while you're in a good place, when you're being successful, when you don't feel like you've got a problem, is really, really helpful. Because if you end up with a problem, in spite of that, you've got tools to use. Like, you're not going to, it's hard to learn contemplative techniques and meditative techniques, and this technique of releasing and surrendering when you're in the midst of suffering. It's very hard to kind of adopt that. Now, some people do, because they're suffering so badly, they surrender at a very deep level, and that causes um, you know some kind of healing or relief. But you can develop this now. You don't have to wait. You can start now, and you can develop a mindfulness practice and a contemplative practice and a clearing practice that sets you up for, if there is a problem, you're in a situation where you can work through severe pain. You can sit with your bleeding hemorrhoid. You can allow these things to just work their way through and heal, and not suffer unnecessarily. So I don't know if, hopefully this is helpful. I'm trying to convey something that I've experienced directly, and that I have found to be really useful, and that just brought to light with this current situation. And I know lots of people suffer from lots of things. You don't have to suffer. There's an absolute power of love, divinity, of energy that is here, but you have to ask for help. You have to ask for help. That we're in a free, sovereign world where we get to make choices. We don't really dictate a lot of things. The circumstances, the things that come at us, they're basically dictated by our energetic level, our karmic proclivity, that are innate to the journey that each of us are on. They're going to come at us based on where we are. We can raise our consciousness, and you're going to get different experiences. And we do that by choices, and by clearing, and by doing things that are for the greater good. And uh, and and so there may be curveballs, there may be lots of things that are thrown at us, but if we can maintain this awareness and this balanced brain, balanced mind of knowingness, and witnessing these things and not reacting to them, you have tremendous power, and everybody has it. There's not a single person on this planet that can't access this. But you have to ask for help and you have to do the work. So there's no shortcut. So if that's helpful, great. If you get something out of this, awesome. If you have questions, I'm certainly happy to dig deeper and to talk about more techniques and things. But um, that's my smoke trail for episode for this one, and I look forward to engaging with all of you further. Thank you.